We observe today not a victory of party, but a celebration of freedom, symbolizing an end as well as a beginning, signifying renewal as well as change.
All right, folks, I am here at the sideline of the 2018 API Policy Summit here in Sacramento, and I'm really excited to be joined by Thi Bui, who is an author and a cartoonist. She has done a lot of work using her craft as an artist to really amplify the Southeast Asian experience and story in a lot of ways, and I'm really excited to talk to her. Thi, thank you so much for joining the podcast today.
Sure, no problem.
All right, Thi, so before we talk about your work, I'd love to hear a little bit about your personal story. So if you could tell us something about kind of where did you grow up, how did you grow up, and how did you become kind of who you are today?
I was born in Vietnam right before the end of the Vietnam War, and so I was the reason why my family got stuck there for a few years.
Right.
And we escaped the country by boat, became boat people in the second wave of refugees from Vietnam.
Right.
And we're resettled here through what Trump would call chain migration.
Right. Right.
And let's see, I have always drawn and stuff, but I think I thought that I might go to school to become a civil rights lawyer. But instead I became a public school teacher, which I loved, and I taught recent immigrants high school age for a long time in Oakland at a school called Oakland International High School.
Gotcha.
So now all of that work is coming together in my anti-deportation work. I'm basically just doing what I know how to do, which is like tell stories through drawing and writing.
Right.
And I wrote a memoir,
Right.
I guess you could call it that, which is just about my family's experience with the forces that caused us to uproot ourselves from the other side of the world
Right.
and come here, and what that was like. And it's not that my story is special, because it's really common, but what I was wondering about growing up was, how come these stories aren't told? How come they're not understood?
Right.
And how can I help make sure that they're not lost before that older generation passes away? There's a lot of intergenerational trauma and conflict, people not understanding each other. And I think that there's a lot of healing that we have to do within our own families and communities if we are to build power and fight for our right to be here and be fully counted as human beings.
Absolutely. So this is the memoir called The Best We Could Do, right? Yeah. Okay. So by the way, guys, it's out there in the bookstore and Amazon and whatnot, so go get a copy if you are interested in reading about it. But it's actually also an illustration, is that right? It's mostly illustration?
It's a comic book,
right.
So it's long, so some people call that a graphic novel,
right.
But the medium is comics, and I would say it's not necessarily for kids. I've heard people as young as middle schoolers read it, but I do comics for grown-ups, basically.
I see. Right.
The questions and the issues are complex.
Right, right. And what led you to this title, The Best We Could Do?
Because I realized that it wasn't just about being a refugee, it was also about parents and children. So the best we could do is,
the best we could do, right?
When I became a parent, I understood what that meant.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And how does this work all kind of fit in with, the larger context now that you were mentioning, the anti-deportation? I wouldn't call it a movement, but it's certainly a bit of a trend, right, that's happening with...
Trying to make it a movement.
Yeah, they're trying to make, which is, something that we need to resist, right, in various ways. We're trying
to make anti-deportation
no, of course.
a movement.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I've been touring a lot for the book, and I'm a little bit tired of it, to be honest. It's really exciting to meet, young API folks who are like hungry for their history and for reconnecting with their roots and their parents and stuff, and that's really rewarding to get to meet them. But I started to realize that, there is a danger of my story being put out there as the model minority story, the refugee success story.
Yeah.
And when you get that kind of spotlight, it does cast a really strong shadow on other API experiences, other refugee experiences. So, me learning more about deportation work and our folks who have been incarcerated unjustly for, 20 plus years, that's me expanding my understanding of what it means to be API and to be a refugee. And then the nice side effect is that I can then translate those stories into something that a lot of people can understand more easily.
Right, right. So in a way, you're saying that you don't actually want your story to be held up as a model per se, but more as just a
one of
story
many
that's
stories.
representative, right, of a larger community.
Yeah,
Right.
but I don't want it to be used to exclude anybody or to
Right.
dehumanize anybody else.
Right,
Yeah.
right. What are some other purpose you hope to accomplish with this book, and then, you know, the other things that you're doing as well?
I just have a lot of anxieties about the state of this country,
Yeah.
the state of the world,
Right.
and so making art, personally helps me feel like I have something to do, and then it's a great excuse to get to talk to people and spend quality time with them.
Right.
I'm basically a nonfiction writer,
Yeah.
so it's like basically a slow form of journalism, and,
Right.
and like you, I like to ask people questions.
Exactly. Right. Is there another book coming up that we might be looking forward to? Are you working on something else right now?
Yeah, so this deportation book is going to be called Nowhere Land, and it'll be out hopefully in about a year and a half with One World.
Right.
And in the meantime, I'm going to be dropping small pieces of it online as, anti-deportation work demands.
Right.
A little bit of advocacy here and there. So the first installment you'll see will be online later this month at thenib.com.
Gotcha. Beautiful. Well, everybody go follow that, and follow Thi on Twitter as well. I hope you tweet some of your work out so that
I
more
will.
people can see that. Thank you so much for joining the podcast and for everything that you're doing.
Thank